הלך ומכאן לגלי החום הכבדים, מתיחות גיאופוליטית בים השחור וזינוק במחירי האנרגיה, כל אלה הזניקו את מדד מחירי המזון של האום. החיטה והסוכר רשמו זינוק חד, ומחירי שמני המאכל כבר מגיעים לשיא של 4 שנים. האם גל ההתייקרויות העולמי בדרך למדפים ברשתות של השיווק בישראל, ואיך זה ישפיע על הכיס של כולנו? לפני זמן קצר שוחחנו עם מוניקה טוטובה, כלכלנית בכירה בארגון המזון והחקלאות של האום. הנה. Joining us now is Monica Totova, senior economist at the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. Monica, thank you for being with us.
For having me.
Global food prices are edging up again. Looking at the latest FAO numbers, which red flags stand out the most?
The FAO monitors global food commodity prices. Food commodity prices we are monitoring because the food commodities are traded. So the FAO food price index looks at cereal, vegetable oils, meats, dairy and sugar. Out of this group, what trended up the most in the last months were cereal prices, vegetable oil prices and sugar prices. On the other hand, the dairy prices and the meat prices observed a slight decline, although we should note that they were on a pretty high level before.
So you're talking in a very specific items of food, of that kind of food. Why is that? Why is specifically this kind?
So you might have noticed that the commodities I mentioned, but the ones that increased the most were the crops on commodities that are derived from the crops, cereals, vegetable oil, sugar, while the animal protein products, they decline. So what was behind this increase in the last months were to the large extent weather conditions. For example, for wheat, we were talking about the impact of the heat wave in Europe on the production of wheat. In the meantime, only earlier this year, we observed that Australian farmers, for example, planted less wheat because they were concerned about the high production costs stemming from the high costs of fertilizers. In the meantime, also in the US, you had a significant decline in the wheat production because of the widespread drought.
Besides weather, we also have high energy costs and global conflicts, as you mentioned. How significant are these factors in pushing food prices further?
So here I will differentiate between the food commodity prices and the food prices. Agriculture itself, of course, is very energy intensive. You need energy to operate the machinery, you need energy to produce fertilizers, and all of this has to a certain extent already reflected itself in the commodity prices. Farmers react to the signals they get from the fertilizer markets. They decide what they are going to plant early on. When the farmers, for example, in the US were deciding, are we going to plant more corn, maize, which is more fertilizer intensive, or more soybeans, which are less fertilizer intensive. So they opted a little bit more towards the soybeans, where the fertilizer costs are lower. So they impact the cost of production and they impact what the farmers are producing. Australian farmers, for example, decided to plant less wheat because it is very fertilizer intensive and they were worried about the availability of fertilizers. So that's the part of the food commodity prices. The part of the food prices, what the consumers are paying, the energy costs, you could think of them as they enter even more into the story of the producing food and getting the food to the shops, to the tables of the consumers. the commodity itself, in many cases, for example, the cost of the share of wheat in the bread, or the cost of maize in the bag of cornflakes, is actually very low. But the rest of it is energy, it is the labor cost, it is the distribution costs of getting the inputs to the factory, producing, transforming, getting it out to the distribution, and eventually final consumers. So this part is actually quite energy intensive. And while the producers are to a certain degree hedging what they can, the bigger producers, of course, the smaller producers do not have the luxury or the capacity to hedge. You could see that the prices of this and the consumer space, they edged up, but there are other factors in addition to the commodity prices that impact those prices in the shops.
But what does all of this mean for everyday people? How soon will consumers feel it at the supermarket?
Very much depend on what you are buying, right? So if you are buying what we don't have in the index, the fresh fruits and vegetables, where the price might have increased because there was, let's say, some sort of a failure in your local production because of high heat or some weather impact. So you see that impact pretty quickly, within a few weeks. If you go to the market and you are buying from a farmer on the market, then you see it right away. For the food products that are a little bit more processed, that can take 6 months. It can take even a little bit longer for the things which they are using, for example, or they are contracting the wheat at a higher price to produce cookies, so that the increase could be several months, 6 months, even more. Although the producer might also choose to absorb, if they can absorb this increased price themselves. And it's a lot of things, a lot of factors that impact, right, from the market structure to the production, to the distribution. So the answer is not as straightforward.
Monica Tatova from the FAO, thank you very much for this conversation. Thank you.